That feeling, we all know it. You're tracking your finances, feeling on top of things, your monthly budget is working perfectly, and then bam, a huge non-negotiable bill just lands in your inbox.
Right. The car insurance renewal.
Or property tax, yeah, something big, and you have to pay it. Like, no.
And it's funny because we're so good at the monthly costs, the things that hit us every 30 days.
You got those down.
But it's those financial Goliaths, the ones that only show up once or twice a year. They're the ones that cause the real stress.
Exactly. So our sources this week, they give this incredibly focused guide on preparation. It's a strategy, really, for finding and neutralizing these massive annual costs before they become a crisis. Our mission today is pretty straightforward. We're giving you a shortcut to financial foresight, turning those nasty surprises into just boring, routine payments.
And it all started with this story of a woman named Sandra.
Yeah, Sandra. So she finally sat down and added up all of her non-monthly expenses from the last year. Everything.
And the total was?
A staggering 2,400 euros per year.
Wow.
And that moment, it was, painful but powerful. She said, "It's huge. I didn't think it would be that much. But from now on, they will be planned well in advance."
And that's the whole game right there.
That realization is everything. It's not a spending problem, it's a timing problem.
Ah.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, Sandra's story is a perfect example of something called temporal discounting.
Okay.
We focus on immediate costs, what's right in front of us, but we mentally shrink or even just ignore these large, distant obligations.
So we know the car insurance is due in November, but in February, November feels a lifetime away.
Exactly. And the sources bring up this quote from the historian Jean Delumeau, who said, "The big expenses are not the ones we make, but the ones we forget to plan for."
That's the whole philosophy, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. The real gap in most budgets, it isn't the daily coffee. It's trying to absorb a whole year's worth of necessary costs in one single painful month. If you don't account for that 2,400, your whole system it falls apart when the bills show up.
It makes complete sense. I mean, you look at your monthly income versus monthly bills, and the numbers might look great.
Right.
But then the property tax bill hits in January or the kids' school fees in August, and suddenly you're dipping into emergency savings
Or credit cards.
Exactly, using credit for costs you knew were coming.
Yeah.
So the goal for you, the listener, is simple. Plan for the occasional expense to avoid these bad surprises.
Precisely. And you can't plan for something you haven't defined. So the source material gives this really systematic, comprehensive checklist.
To get you thinking beyond just, taxes.
Yeah, to get into the weeds of your actual life. This identification process is the absolute foundation.
Okay, so let's run through that checklist. What exactly are these financial giants we're talking about?
We can break them down into about 4 key areas. The first group is usually the biggest shock. That's taxes and housing.
The heavy hitters.
For sure. We're talking income tax, any big payment you might owe outside of your standard withholding. Then, if you're a homeowner, property tax.
On any other regional housing taxes that might still apply.
Yes, those are the ones that are often measured in the thousands.
Okay, so those are the big government ones. But people often miss the costs that tend to clump together, especially around their cars.
Absolutely. So the second key category is insurance and vehicles. This is your annual home and car insurance, of course.
Often billed once or twice a year.
Right. But here's the detail the sources really stress. You have to include the lumpy, irregular costs of vehicle maintenance.
So not just oil changes.
No. It's setting aside a specific amount for new tires every few years, for major service appointments, or for those required technical inspections.
I think that's a real challenge for people, though. How do you budget for, say, an 800 euro car repair when you don't know when it's going to happen?
The sources say you have to create a reasonable annual average. Look at what you spent last year on maintenance, maybe add a little cushion for inflation, and treat that total as a non-negotiable annual expense.
So if you figure out that tires, maintenance, and inspections average about, say, $600 a year.
Then you must set aside 50 euros every single month for a car repair fund. It doesn't matter if you need it this month or not. The money has to be there.
That reframes it completely.
Yeah.
It goes from being an emergency to inevitable.
That's the word, inevitable.
What about the personal and social costs, the ones that sneak up on us?
That brings us to category 3, personal and family costs. These tend to cluster, right? Late summer and then again in December.
Back to school and the holidays.
Exactly. All the school supplies, registration fees, sports activities, and then the big variable one is gifts and parties. Birthdays, Christmas, weddings you have to attend. If you know you'll spend like €500 on holiday gifts, and another 300 on birthdays throughout the year. That's 800 that has to be in your plan. We have to stop letting social events become financial emergencies.
And the last one, I'm guessing, is health.
The final category is health, specifically unreimbursed medical expenses.
Things your insurance doesn't fully cover.
Right. Specialized dental work, new glasses or contacts, visits to an osteopath. These don't hit every month, but if you need new glasses that cost €400 every 2 years, you need to budget €200 for them every single year.
Okay, so once you go through all that, taxes, tires, gifts, glasses, you get your big number, your Sandra number.
You get your 2,400 or whatever it is, and that total tells you exactly how much extra money you need to find outside of your regular monthly budget.
Knowing the number is step one. But the real shift, the real deep dive moment, is about managing the cash flow shock. Because knowing I owe $600 is one thing, but if I haven't saved it, I'm still in trouble. So how do we stop that shock to the bank account? This is where it gets really interesting.
Right. This is where we move from just identifying to actually implementing a strategy. And the sources lay out 2 core strategies for smoothing out that effort. They're listed under this idea of to remember.
Okay.
Strategy number 1 is what they call payment smoothing. The French term is mensualisation, which just means making an annual payment monthly.
So you just call them up?
The simplest solution, yeah. Call the tax office, call the insurance company, and ask if you can spread that annual cost over 10 or 12 months.
That feels like the path of least resistance. Why doesn't everyone just do that for every single bill?
That's a good question. And there can be a small obstacle. Sometimes a provider might charge a small administrative fee for that service. So you have to weigh that small cost, maybe an extra 1 or 2%, against the huge value of having stable, predictable cash flow.
Yeah.
For most people, the stress reduction alone is worth way more than that small fee. It just automates the discipline.
Okay, so that works for the predictable bills, like insurance. But what about the irregular stuff, like the car fund or the gift budget, where I can't just pay a company in advance?
And that leads us to strategy number 2, the dedicated annual budget, or what a lot of people call a sinking fund.
Okay.
If paying the provider monthly isn't an option, then you have to create your own internal savings plan. This is the mandatory step where you take back control.
So let's go back to Sandra. Her total was $2,400 nuts.
So she has to distribute that total over 12 months. That means setting aside exactly €200 every single month.
And that money doesn't just vanish.
No, it moves into a dedicated separate savings account, that sinking fund.
I love the idea, but I know for some listeners, finding an extra €200 this month might feel impossible. How did the sources suggest you actually start this without causing more stress right away?
That's a critical point. The sources imply that you can do this gradually. You don't have to fund the whole year on day 1.
Right.
The goal is to immediately start preventing the shock for bills that are, say, 3, 6, or 9 months out. You prioritize. If your car insurance is €600 and it's due in 6 months, you start today by saving €100 a month just for that one thing.
I see. So you build up to the full €200 over time.
Exactly. And the real power is in automation and psychological separation. This money needs to be in a separate high-yield savings account that's clearly labeled Annual Expenses Fund.
Yeah, you automate the transfer.
You automate the €200 transfer for the day you get paid. That way the money is gone. It's reserved. It's not part of your daily spending budget anymore. When that $600 bill arrives, you're not scrambling. You're just moving money from the fund that's already there waiting.
That tiny shift automating savings into a separate pot, it feels huge for long-term stability. You're basically creating a predictive financial system instead of just reacting month to month.
You've got it. You're moving from reacting to the past to financing your future. You're preparing for the known costs of your life.
We've just laid out a really detailed, actionable plan here from the source material, but the final section pivots a bit, more toward critical thinking. The sources bring up that great investor, Charlie Munger, who always said, take ideas where they are, but use your own brain to assemble them.
And that quote is such a necessary check on any educational content,
Yeah.
right? While we've laid out a clear framework, this is just a sharing of experience. It's not personalized advice.
Everyone's situation is different.
Completely. The listener has to use their own judgment. Your life, your income, your comfort with risk, it's all unique. This deep dive gives you the tools to budget better, but, for example, if you decide to take the money you've saved and invest it, you have to apply that Munger wisdom.
Right.
You have to understand that markets are uncertain, past performance doesn't guarantee future results, and all investing has risk. The system we talked about is universal for budgeting, but what you do with that €200, whether you just save it in cash or put it somewhere else, that has to align with your personal goals.
The big lesson here is self-reliance. We're laying out the how-tos, but you're ultimately responsible for your own research and making those final calls.
Precisely. The goal here is just to inspire you to take that action and regain control over your own financial cycles.
So what does this all mean? We started with that feeling of financial ambush, the dread of that huge, infrequent bill.
Hmm.
And what we've established is that the path to financial stability isn't really about some radical new way to spend less. It's about systematically accounting for the known mandatory spending that we all tend to ignore.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, the simple act of adding up those yearly costs and dividing by 12 just completely transforms your financial reality. Predictability is power. It lets you move from feeling constantly surprised to feeling proactively prepared.
Mm.
So we've established that these big yearly expenses must be factored in and spread out. So here's a final thought for you, the listener. If knowing your total amount, your Sandra number, is the first step, what other overlooked financial obligations could you break down over 12 months right now?
Good question.
Think beyond just taxes and insurance. Maybe it's saving for an annual vacation,
Yeah.
or a tuition bill for a course you're taking, or even just the costs of owning a pet, the annual vet visits, grooming.
All of it adds up.
Whatever it is, spread it out, automate the savings, and reclaim that financial peace of mind. If you found this deep dive useful, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more insights just like this one. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into your source material.